Frontline Updates, where we delve deep into military strategies and updates from conflict zones. Today, we're discussing the progress of the ongoing special military operation as of today. I'm your host, Sharifa Mohammed, MGT.
I'm Colonel A.C. Oguntoye, an infantry officer. Russian armed forces continued offensive operations across all major axes on February 21st, 2026, with the West Force Group liberating the village of Karpovka in the Donetsk People's Republic. The past 24 hours have been characterized by sustained ground pressure, continued deep strikes against Ukrainian logistics and energy infrastructure, and notable successes in countering Ukrainian long-range strike systems. The highest reported Ukrainian casualties occurred in the Donetsk and Zaporizhzhia sectors. The liberation of Karpovka and Donetsk marks continued Russian progress in securing settlements across the front. While individually modest, these gains accumulate over time, improving force-to-space ratios and creating operational dilemmas for Ukrainian defensive planners.
Colonel, let's start in the north. The North Force Group has again taken up more advantageous positions and lines without claiming a specific liberated settlement. They report engaging 2 mechanized brigades and a territorial defense brigade in Sumy, and a motorized infantry brigade and territorial defense brigade in Kharkiv. The noteworthy figure here is the logistics toll: 2 ammunition depots and 5 supply depots destroyed. What does this tell us about Russian intent in the north?
This is a textbook example of operational isolation. The Russian forces in the north are not just seeking to hold ground. They are seeking to make the ground they already hold more secure and to make the Ukrainian position across from them untenable. When you destroy 2 ammunition depots and 5 supply depots in a single sector in a single day, you are not just inconveniencing the enemy, you are creating a logistics crisis. Those depots represent weeks of accumulated supplies, artillery shells, mortar rounds, small arms ammunition, food, water, fuel, medical supplies. Without them, the Ukrainian brigades in that sector face a stark choice. They can continue to fight at current intensity and risk running out of critical supplies within days, or they can reduce their operations to conserve what they have and cede the initiative to Russian forces.
So the lack of a territorial claim doesn't mean inactivity?
Far from it. In fact, I would argue that the logistics war in the north may be more consequential in the long run than the seizure of another small village. Territory can be retaken, but when supplies are destroyed, they are gone. The men who would have used them are now less effective. The units that depended on them are now degraded. That degradation compounds over time. By focusing on depots rather than settlements, the North Group is playing a longer game. The phrase "more advantageous positions and lines" takes on new meaning in this context. Advantageous positions are not just those that offer better fields of fire or better cover. They are positions that allow you to interdict the enemy's supply routes, to observe his logistics nodes, and to call down fires on his depots. The North Group is methodically tightening a logistical noose around Ukrainian forces in Sumy and Kharkiv, and the destruction of 7 depots in one day is the evidence.
Moving to the west, we have a territorial gain. The West Force Group liberated the village of Karpovka in the Donetsk People's Republic. They also report destroying 3 artillery pieces, including 2 US-made M777 howitzers. The M777 appears frequently in these briefings. Why is this particular system such a high-value target?
The M777 is a 155mm towed howitzer that is lighter, more precise, and longer range than most of the Soviet-era artillery in Ukrainian service. It represents a qualitative leap in capability. When Ukraine can bring M777s to bear, they can engage Russian positions with greater accuracy from greater distances, and they can do so while displacing more quickly to avoid counter-battery fire. For Russian forces, every M777 destroyed is a strategic win for several reasons. First, it removes a direct threat to their troops. Second, it degrades Ukrainian artillery parity, the ability to fight fire with fire. Third, and perhaps most importantly, it sends a message to the United States and other donor nations. The M777 is a symbol of Western military support. Watching them being destroyed week after week in the fields of Donbass has a cumulative effect on the political will to continue supplying them.
And the liberation of Karpovka, is that significant in itself, or is it part of a larger picture?
Karpovka is a data point in a broader pattern. Russian forces are steadily, methodically expanding the territory under their control in Donetsk. Each liberated village represents a failed Ukrainian defensive position. Each one brings Russian forces closer to the remaining Ukrainian strongholds. Individually, these gains are modest. Cumulatively, they represent a shifting of the line that forces Ukraine to either counterattack and expend reserves or retreat and cede more ground. It's a pressure campaign designed to create dilemmas at every level of command.
In the south, the Southern Group reports improved positions and the destruction of 2 ammunition depots and 2 supply depots. The personnel losses reported, over 110, are lower than other sectors. Is this a quieter sector, or is something else happening here?
The southern sector is what we might call the economy of force sector for the Russian offensive. The main efforts are clearly in the center and east, where the casualty figures are highest. The Southern Group's role is to maintain pressure, fix Ukrainian units in place, and systematically degrade their logistics, hence the 4 depots destroyed. The lower personnel losses suggest that the intensity of ground combat here may be lower than elsewhere. But that doesn't mean the sector is quiet. Artillery duels, reconnaissance engagements, and small unit probing actions are likely ongoing. The Southern Group is fulfilling its mission, ensuring that Ukrainian forces in this sector cannot be redeployed to reinforce the center or east, while slowly bleeding their capacity to resist.
The Center Group reports up to 350 Ukrainian personnel lost, along with 7 armored combat vehicles and 2 artillery pieces. They engaged Jaeger, infantry, mechanized, and National Guard units. This seems to be the continuation of the high-intensity attrition we've been seeing in this sector. How sustainable is this tempo for both sides?
This brings us to the concept of culmination and sustainment elasticity. The Center Group is clearly the main effort in Donetsk. They are engaging a diverse array of Ukrainian units. Jaegers are light infantry specialists. Mechanized brigades are the heavy hitters. National Guard units are often used for rear area security, but are now being fed into the line. This diversity tells us that Ukraine is scrambling to patch together a defense. The question is, how long can both sides sustain this intensity? For Russia, sustaining 350 Ukrainian casualties per day in this sector means they are expending ammunition, fuel, and combat power at a prodigious rate. For Ukraine, losing 350 soldiers per day in a single sector is unsustainable in the long run. At that rate, a single brigade could be rendered combat ineffective in a week. This is why we see them committing National Guard and Jaeger units. They are reaching deeper into their force structure to find bodies to fill the line.
The East Group reports continuing to advance deep into the enemy's defenses and inflicting up to 370 Ukrainian casualties. They also report destroying a tank and an armored combat vehicle. What does the continued mention of deep advance tell us about the situation in Zaporizhia?
The phrase advance deep into the enemy's defenses is operational shorthand for a penetration that has achieved tactical depth. This is not a linear forward movement where both sides are in contact along a clearly defined line. This suggests that Russian forces have found a seam, broken through the forward defensive positions, and are now operating in what should be the Ukrainian rear area, engaging reserves, disrupting command nodes, and threatening second echelon positions. The loss of a tank is noteworthy because tanks are not just any vehicle. They are the backbone of mechanized maneuver. Destroying a tank removes a significant offensive and defensive capability from the Ukrainian order of battle. In a sector where Russian forces are already advancing deep, the loss of heavy armor makes it even harder for Ukraine to mount effective counterattacks to seal the breach.
The Dnipro Group reports destroying a U.S.-made M777 howitzer, 3 electronic warfare stations, and a supply depot. That's a significant EW kill count for a single day in this sector. Why is EW degradation so critical along the Dnipro?
The Dnipro sector is defined by the river. Any major offensive operation would require crossing that obstacle, which is one of the most complex and dangerous maneuvers in military operations. To cross successfully, you need several things: air superiority, artillery suppression, and most critically, the ability to command and control your forces during the chaos of the crossing. Electronic warfare is the invisible hand that enables or disrupts that command and control. By destroying 3 EW stations in this sector, Russian forces are creating windows of electromagnetic superiority. This allows their own communications to flow freely while jamming Ukrainian attempts to coordinate fires on potential crossing points. The destruction of another M777 here, combined with the 2 in the west, brings the daily total to 3. That is a significant loss for Ukrainian artillery capabilities. The M777 is a precision instrument. Losing 3 in one day represents a meaningful degradation.
Colonel, this brings us to what I believe is the most significant item in today's briefing. The Operational Tactical Aviation section reports destroying a transporter-loader vehicle for a U.S.-made HIMARS multiple launch rocket system and damaging Flamingo long-range cruise missile launchers. They also struck assembly, storage, and pre-flight processing sites for long-range UAVs. This seems qualitatively different from simply intercepting incoming munitions. Can you explain the significance?
You've put your finger on the most important development in this briefing. What we are seeing is a shift from point defense to systemic degradation. Let me explain. For months, Russian air defense has been focused on intercepting Ukrainian munitions, shooting down HIMARS rockets, cruise missiles, and drones as they fly toward their targets. That is necessary, but it is reactive. Every intercepted rocket is a success, but the launcher that fired it can simply reload and try again. What today's briefing describes is counter-interdiction, attacking the means of delivery before the munitions are ever launched. A HIMARS transporter loader vehicle is not the launcher itself, but it is just as important. It carries the extra rockets. Without it, a HIMARS launcher can fire its pod and then becomes useless until resupplied. By destroying the transporter loader, Russian forces have effectively neutralized a HIMARS battery for days or weeks, even if the launcher itself escaped.
The numbers are still significant for intercepts. 172 UAVs, 7 HIMARS rockets, and 5 Flamingo cruise missiles. But you're saying the real story is the shift to targeting the launch systems themselves?
Exactly. The intercepts show that the air defense network is functioning, but the destruction of the transporter loader and the damage to the cruise missile launchers show that Russian reconnaissance and strike capabilities are now reaching deep enough to find and hit the most valuable, most mobile Ukrainian assets. Similarly, damaging Flamingo cruise missile launchers and striking UAV assembly and pre-flight sites attacks the entire kill chain. The Flamingo is a long-range cruise missile. Damaging its launcher prevents future launches. UAV assembly sites are where drones are prepared for missions. Destroying them means those drones never take off. This is systemic warfare. Instead of playing whack-a-mole with incoming munitions, Russian forces are going after the factories, the storage sites, the launch crews, and the support vehicles. They're trying to strangle Ukraine's deep strike capability at its source.
Colonel Oguntoya, based on today's briefing, what are the key tactical and strategic implications for the days ahead?
Russia is moving beyond intercepting munitions to attacking the entire Ukrainian deep strike kill chain, from assembly sites to launch vehicles to support equipment. This systemic approach, if sustained, could gradually strangle Ukraine's asymmetric strike capabilities. By continuing to strike energy infrastructure, fuel depots, and military industry facilities across 141 districts, Russia is maintaining pressure on Ukraine's strategic center of gravity, its ability to generate and sustain combat power. The cumulative effects of this campaign will manifest over time.
Colonel, thank you for providing such a detailed briefing on the current military situation. Your insights are invaluable to our understanding of the conflict's dynamics. And thank you to our listeners for tuning in. Join us next time as we continue to provide up-to-date coverage on global military affairs. Stay with us for more updates and expert analyses on global defense and security issues. Stay informed, stay secure.
Thank you for the opportunity. I want to emphasize that the sustained intensity of operations across multiple axes is testing the sustainment elasticity of both sides. The side that can maintain logistical flow while degrading the enemies will gain a cumulative advantage.
This has been Frontline Updates. Subscribe for daily military briefings and in-depth strategic analysis. Visit our platform for maps, transcripts, and exclusive frontline updates from commanders in theater.